Let's do that.
All right. Let me know when I'm live and nationwide.
Live.
It's crazy.
You are.
She got an online course stipend. Yeah. All right, so let's do. So we have our frontal bone, which has the glabella in the front, and the supraorbital fissure slash foramen, which is that cut out there in your eyebrow. Our parietal bones, we have our two separated by the sagittal suture and separated by the coronal suture from the frontal bone and the lambdoidal suture from the occipital bone. Then we have our temporal bone, which is the big one in terms of its parts, because we have our regions. So we have our tympanic region here, mastoid region here, impetrous region here, and squamosal region here near the squamous suture. And so on our temporal bone, we have the zygomatic process, because it's going to my zygomatic bone, the external auditory meatus or slash canal, the styloid process, and the mastoid process. My occipital bone, which is here, I have my occipital posterior protuberance, my occipital crest, my nuchal lines, which go across. Then underneath, I have the foramen magnum with the occipital condyles, where I join my C1 vertebrae. Then, let's go back to here. I have my nasal bones, which are where my glasses sit. I have my maxilla bone, which is my upper jaw, with the infraorbital foramen, which are under my eyes. Then I have the alveolar margins, which are where my teeth go. My zygomatic bone, which is my cheekbone, has a frontal process, which goes up to my forehead. And I have a temporal process, which goes back to my temporal bone. Then we have my lacrimal bone, which is where my tears are, my lacrimal canal and fossa, which is where my tear duct would be. Then that leaves the stuff in my head. So I have a vomer, which is the lower part of my nose, and also this bone right here. That's going to join my ethmoid, which is inside my nose top, which makes the perpendicular plate there, and pops out the crista galli there, with the cribriform plate on each side. Then I have the sphenoid bone, which is behind my eyes, over here, and in here. So my sphenoid has the greater wing, lesser wing. It has the optic canals, which go into my eyeball. And I have the sella turcica, which is the Turk saddle. Hypophyseal fossa is where you'd sit. The tuberculum sella is the front. The dorsum sella is the back. And then, what else? Oh yeah, we have the superior orbital fissure, which is that big slit behind your eye. Goes through there. That leaves all the little holes underneath. So let's do the little holes underneath.
Little holes.
So I'm going to start the foramen magnum, because I know that one. I'm going to have a, this is not drilled out, but there'll be two hypoglossal canals on the side, which, what are there? Oh, barely. Okay, that's it. That one there. Then I have my jugular canals, these big ones here. The carotid canal is the next one up. Then I'm going to have my foramen lacerum, which is this one. My foramen ovale, which is this one. If I go back, I have my foramen spinosum. And then I have my
You're looking for rotundum.
No, rotundum should be
Hard to see on that
there. It
one.
is. Rotundum should be here. My sphenoid bone. So it's there. The one I'm missing is one between the stylo. Is that one between your this one?
Stylomastoid.
Stylomastoid. Thank you.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember what his name. Stylomastoid foramen. And I think that's all. Oh yeah, the internal auditory meatus. Excuse me. Is inside where your ear would come in here. So right there.
And the external.
And the opposite, the external meatus. Those are all the holes. Now I'm stuck with this bone. This is my mandible, my alveolar margin where my teeth would go. Then I have my coronoid process, because it's a crown. My mandible condyle, which is the knuckle. The ramus, the angle, the notch. Then I have holes. This is my mental foramen, because it's near my chin. My mandibular foramen is inside my jaw. And my mylohyoid ridge is where my tongue would sit there.
Oh, that's the one I got wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
That is.
Pterygoid process.
Oh, yeah, I forgot those. Pterygoids are these two that sit down on each side of the ethmoid there, basically.
What was that?
Pterygoids. Look like pterodactyls.
You didn't do your favorite Turkish saddle.
I
Yeah,
did.
you did.
Yeah.
Oh, you
I did Sphenoid. Yeah, I did. I would never forget the Turkish saddle. I would die knowing the Turkish saddle. All right, so let's do some muscles.
Yeah.
So we have our frontalis or frontal belly of the epicranius, whatever you want to call it. We have our, well, it's not shown, but the occipitalis, which is the posterior one. This is my temporalis, comes down. Then I'm going to have my orbicularis oculi around my eyes. My zygomacticus is the smilers from my cheek, zygomacticus major. My masseters to help me chew up and down. Then I have my risorius, which is the little one directly to my cheeks. The buccinator is the one deep to that, so number 79. My sucker muscle. My orbicularis oris are around my lips. Then I have the funny angle ones. So I have my depressor anguli oris, which is the one that pulls my lips at an angle. My depressor labii inferioris, which pulls my lips down. My levator labii superioris, which pulls my lips up. And then my mentalis, which wrinkles my chin.
About the angularis.
Is that the depressor anguli oris?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Then, sternocleidomastoid, my favorite. I don't know if that was on this list. And then the scalenes. We did that one this time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we have the chinny ones. So we have our digastric, which has a part here like a belly, and then part goes back to your ear. It's hard to see. Next to it would be the stylohyoid, because it goes back to my styloid process and comes forward. I have a sternohyoid, which comes up my sternum to my hyoid. Then I have a myelohyoid, which goes from my hyoid to my mouth, basically. And that should be all the head ones. You good? Yeah. I've done this before. So what's next?
Really?
Arms and
We'll
legs.
do arms and legs.
Arms and legs. You have a preference?
Arms and legs.
Now watch someone write in, he's got that one wrong. He's a jerk. Who posts this kind of crap? I get him wrong too. Sam will always tell me I got something wrong on the internet. You got that one wrong. It's like, okay, I'm not an MD. I get an excuse. You're an MD, you don't have an excuse. Why in the world I picked the arm first? Alright, let's get some arm bones.
Whoops.
I'll get some arm bones. You know, really, the study's going to be if you did this, right? Went through it all and filmed each other. That would be more useful than filming me.
Any volunteers?
Again?
Doing like a
It's
PowerPoint, and you
always
just copy
easy
what I
to
tell you, but you don't learn anything.
Is that why you don't do PowerPoint?
Yeah, actually, it's somewhat. Plus, I think it's from the devil. That's me. One of the things that comes out with research and the learning is that PowerPoint becomes part of passive. You just watch what I put on the screen. You don't actually write anything your own. Or if you write it, you copy what the instructor gives you.
Right.
Part of learning is you take what the instructor gives you and you write it yourself.
Yep.
And that makes you learn it
In
Yeah.
your own words?
in your own words. You own it. Then. Your brain remembers what you write far better than what you read. Right?
That's why
But
I
one of the
write when
problems
I
with
study.
PowerPoint is
Yeah, same here.
easy,
All the time.
convenient,
I
and
have a
lazy, so
whiteboard.
you just get used to
I'm actually
just
thinking of maybe
memorizing what I
painting one of
tell
my
you.
balls is the
The only
black.
classes where I really
Except for I'd have to get a stool,
PowerPoint
so I
is
could
where
get
the
up high.
instructors, like, talk super fast and give, like,
Maybe I'll
lots
just
of
have you come
information.
over.
I was
Yeah.
recapping my
Yeah.
notes too.
Yeah, I usually do
Still
that.
bio
I
class,
either do
but
flashcards
it's good in
or
summer.
like lecture notes. I'll just usually
That's one of the problems is
I'll just
PowerPoint
do it on my
becomes lazy for the
smaller
teacher. I just
whiteboard
download
and
it
just
from the
keep
publisher and
practicing
put it
and
on
practicing
Yeah.
and practicing
Zero,
and writing it
I
out,
don't do anything with it.
correcting it,
So
going
that's the
back.
problem with it, but, so. Again, I'm a traditionalist.
Usually
I write
helps.
on chalkboard.
Sometimes,
I think this
and then
helps
taking
me,
photos of these
just because
things
there's
really
so
helps
much
me.
and I can identify with watching it. I
What
don't
am
know.
I doing now?
my
Arms,
goodness,
right?
it's
Take it
like
home
a
with you.
archaeological site.
Yeah.
Brontosaurus.
Reference it.
All right.
Well,
not.
yeah.
Oh,
We're going
hold
to
on.
start with the bone.
Scapula.
So I'm going to build a person. So I'm
Hold on. Wait, sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
Come on, Bridget.
I'm going green by using my battery renewal. All right. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so clavicle or collarbone, scapula, I need a humerus. That's the wrong one for that arm. Radius, ulna, hand. So I'm going to go through each.